I feel bad. We always want these to kind of look professional, but Chris always does such a great job with the intros that I'm always just like have a big smile on my face or I'm laughing every time we come on live. So kudos to my partner. What is up, everybody? We are the Nice Guys Motion Picture Podcast. My name is Mick Jamison. I'm here with my partner Chris Ryans, and this is going to be a little bit of a different type of episode. It's not going to be the same episode that we usually do where we're going over a movie from either the 70s, 80s, or 90s. We haven't hit the 90s yet, as we've been saying. This is kind of, we didn't know what to call it. This might be a Nice Guys supplemental episode or a Nice Guys oversized one-shot annual. We wanted to discuss now with the Flash. I was going to say in theaters, but I don't even know if it's even in any.
It's still in theaters. I know. Don't let the Twitter hate avalanche of Marvel zombies distort what reality.
With the Flash still in theaters, we wanted to, and with James Gunn taking, I think
it's still in theaters.
I know. I'm
not totally sure.
Call up Movie Phone and see what they say. Yeah. With James Gunn getting ready with the announcement of the casting of the new Superman and Lois Lane, we wanted to kind of go over the last 10 years of DC on film, the DCEU, I guess. I don't know if that was ever like the official name of it, or
no, that was fan stuff. This is fan stuff,
And I think like we're both. Would you consider? I consider myself, and listen. I am a comic book guy. I love comic books. I've loved them since I was a kid, obviously. Yeah. And I've read DC and Marvel, but I always considered myself back before, this was obviously in the 80s before there was Twitter and stuff like that. So you didn't go at other people, but I always considered myself more of a DC person than a Marvel person. I would think that's you too.
Yeah.
And again, like we've talked about on other episodes, we live in a time that we dreamed about when we were kids. And I'm sure Chris, I don't want to speak for him, but I dreamed about seeing a Justice League movie when I was a kid. I dreamed about seeing a Flash movie, a Green Lantern movie. And now we have all that. But we also have, like I just said, we have the internet, we have Twitter, we have Facebook. So we have people complaining. And not everybody. I don't want to generalize because it's not everybody, but it's
just complaining.
It's a small but vocal minority. I would say,
and not just complaining, but comparing.
Yes, comparing
to, the established, already been doing this for like 8 years at that time. Who've got their formula and have brainwashed a whole bunch of fans, with the Marvel stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to be bitter this entire episode. I'm sorry.
I know, and as like DC fans, like I can go over the movies and I can be rational about it and I can like kid around about stuff. But I try to, I think we're seeing it this summer with some of the movies that are coming out. It's like not everything needs to be the greatest movie ever made. It doesn't. You can just go whatever. I think in the world we live in now, you can't just go to the movies and enjoy a movie. It either has to be the worst movie ever or the greatest movie ever. It can't just be a fun. It's got to be
something that sets your balls on fire for like, people to get like when I see some reviews of things and like there's this, there's one couple that does reactions that I enjoy because I'm rewatching Rebels and watching them watch Rebels, Star Wars Rebels. And they're episodes that they enjoy. But and this is not just them. This is like a lot of people like, I enjoyed it. Like, why is that a negative? Why are you saying that in like I enjoyed it, but it wasn't the greatest thing. Not everything's got to be the greatest thing. You enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
What more can you ask for? And I fall into that trap with TV and with movies now. I know I do because there's times where I'm watching something and I'm like, oh, like what am I going to go and say later on Twitter? Or what am I going to go and say? And it's like, why? Why can't? And I think I've tried to wean myself off of that because I just want to I don't want other people and other opinions. Like you can like something that other people don't like. Like, you're
Right.
allowed to like that. It doesn't matter. It's like it doesn't, again, like, you don't always have to just have this tribe where you're here and all these other people are over there and it's got to be a battle all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with DC and Marvel, because when one of these things fails, it's not good for the other company. So, and for the movies and stuff like that. So instead of rooting, and that I feel like that is happening too with rooting for things to fail. It's like, why would you root for something to fail?
Yeah,
I don't get
and I get with the Flash there being so much baggage with the almost at Ezra Bridger because Star Wars Rebels, but
right.
no, with Ezra Miller,
Mhm.
you know, and I get that, but the movie, like that, all that insanity aside, that movie was fun.
Yeah,
That
it's a
movie was
fun,
so much fun,
yes.
and we finally got Batman in blue, gray, and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, been waiting for that for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
Give me that Jim Lee bats.
And
You know?
again, like, people can't just be happy. And I am not also not advocating you don't have to just be, oh, everything's great. I mean,
Right.
again, you can say like, well, they could have done this better, but like, it's again, nobody can, I feel like, can rationally say like, well, this could have been better, or this, they could have done this. It's got to be, oh, it's terrible and this was the worst. Go and enjoy it. I went and saw it with my son who's 12 and my dad who is in his 70s, and they both enjoyed it and said, oh, there's a fun movie. What more do you want? And again, it's coming from, both of those people are not on Twitter, so my dad doesn't care if some dork who's living in his basement thinks that, like, is mad that Ben Affleck is wearing blue and not wearing black, and my son
Yeah,
is not
right.
on Twitter, so he just wants to see. And again, he's
Keep it
grown
that
up.
way.
Yeah, he's grown up in this world, so he's been spoiled with all the riches of like superhero media. But he's just
Right.
like, it's cool. I'm getting to see like a cool Batman Flash action sequence to open up a comic
Boom.
book movie.
Yeah.
So what else do you need? But again, we're we're already getting we're already
We
getting
started off on a
let's
tangent.
yeah, let's go back. It was lo those many years ago, those innocent years of 2013.
Is
2013.
that it's been that long?
It's been that
Is that
long
when
when
Man of
Man of
Steel came
Steel.
out?
Yeah, when Man of Steel came out. Yep.
See, that's why you gotta let Henry. I love Henry Cavill. I love Henry Cavill.
It's
I
funny,
love him
like
in suit,
I
but
think
it's
we need
time.
to I think we need to go off on tangents because it's funny now with the new casting of Corn Sweat, and people are like, he looks just like Henry Cavill. Yeah, because Henry Cavill looks like
Looks like
Superman.
Superman.
So
It's so. It's
that would be
yeah.
something good because it
Right.
means he looks like Superman.
Right.
That's the thing I don't understand either. The whole, and we'll go over it with these movies. Listen, I enjoy Man of Steel. It doesn't mean that I have to like go all. I need to make a shrine to Zack Snyder and defend every little thing he does and say that I'm gonna like boycott things because he's not directing them.
It's just
I
hurting. Yeah,
you
this is
know
hurting the industry.
yeah, and I think this was just stuff that was like an offshoot that happened with these movies, that like there was
Yeah.
just so much like side vitriol, and they had a lot of bad luck too that built up over all these years that just
There
made.
was there was so much. You know, if we go back to the beginning, like, all right, I used to be in a podcast back in the day with my buddy Joe and Mike Roker, who's now part of BROAXIUM, called The Word Podcast, and you know, I think we did something about the Marvel movies. This is like 2009. I
Mhm.
think we did something like, if I remember this correctly, I think we were talking about the casting of Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark and whatnot. That's how far back,
Yeah.
you know, our thing went. And I remember, I think a couple years into the show, and we were talking about this, and I was like, I remember saying, it's going to be next to impossible for anyone, DC, Image, you know, Boom Studios, you know, IDW, anyone to take their comic book property and make a movie out of it and have it be received the way that the Marvel movies have. It's not going to happen because Marvel, they got their hooks into the audience and
Yeah.
into, you know, and just into pop culture and into a generation so deep where, and this is just my view on things, where anything that's not Marvel it's gonna pretty much be shit
Mm.
for people. You know, they're not gonna either not accept it, just not like it, not good enough. It's not like Marvel. And
Yeah.
that's like, you know, working at a comic shop, Boy, have I heard that a lot. Like, well, it's not like the Marvel movies. It's not color like when it comes to the DC movies. And I'm glad that the DC movies were not like the Marvel movies. I wanted them to be different, you know, because that's like the Marvel stuff, an amazing formula for making comic book movies. Not the only way to make comic book movies.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be like that. And they were like, well, you know, the colors were dull, the colors and not enough jokes and yada yada yada. And I'm like, why is it that these comic book movies all have to have, like, you know, just yuck jokes every 4 seconds for it to be like, well, it's a good comic book movie because there's jokes all over the place. Yeah, humor can be in these movies, but like Marvel movies are like, you're like 2 steps away from just being full-blown comedies.
Yeah, but, they've taken it too far now, that where they can't let any moment go by without having a joke at the end of it. And it's like it's gotten to be too much now. And I mean, let's go back, like you're saying, like it's going to be tough. I think with Marvel, it was because, and it's not like everybody thinks this was like a whole grand plan. Now, when stuff started going with them, and you know, the movies were getting more popular, then I will give them credit because they put a plan in place. But like with Iron Man, I don't think in 2008 they saw what was going to become of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, they navigated it really well as it went on, but I think also with what you're saying is Iron Man had never had a movie, so they could build it from the ground up. They were actually lucky that they couldn't use some of their bigger characters, and I like that first Iron Man movie. I don't think I couldn't even tell you last time I saw it. But so they got lucky with that. But I mean, with like Superman, it's hard because one, I think the Christopher Reeve movies were still so much in the consciousness, because even with the Brandon Routh, like that didn't resonate. So that Christopher, it's an uphill battle with Superman a little bit. And as much as I like Cavill, and as much as like growing up with Christopher Reeve, he's my Superman, doesn't mean I won't accept somebody else playing Superman. Right. It's just very hard because Christopher Reeve, and that's a credit to Christopher Reeve, and especially those first 2 movies, that, you know, they made such an impact. And it's different with Batman, I think, because with Batman, he wears a mask. You can have other people play him and play the character. It's a little bit easier with Batman. I think with Superman, it's harder. So I think starting right off the bat, doing Man of Steel, doing an origin story, they wanted to do it. And I give them credit. They wanted to. Whereas with like Superman Returns, I know they were trying to make it like a continuation of the Donner movies. You know, Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers wanted it to be a clean slate, and they wanted to do something different. And I give, you know, and they did. But I think that just in pop culture and the general audience still had Christopher Reeve and those movies. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think they had that in their mind. So, and I don't think Man of Steel, I think it made like 500-600 million. So it's, again, I mean, that goes back to like now what we consider a hit movie.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's going up to right now what we're going through. But I just think they were facing an uphill battle, and I think I think Man of Steel is a good movie. It's very different. Like I said, it's very different from any of the Superman movies we've had before. But I just think, I don't know if the general audience embraced it the way that Warner Brothers did, and I think that it was the same year, you know, that, and it was a year after the Avengers. So, you know, I think that they were like, okay, well, right there with the first movie, they were like, okay, we got to switch. We have to switch what we're doing, and we're gonna make a sequel, but it's not really gonna be a sequel. We're gonna throw Batman into it, and, you know, we're gonna have our own cinematic universe. And they just like went with, and we'll figure it out as we go. You know what I mean?
Right. But that is part of the thing with me. Like, I'm by no means saying that my thought process is the right way. Trust me, but I'm able to set aside, like, okay, Christopher Reeve was Superman. This is the new Superman. I'm able to set that aside.
Yep.
And focus on this one's merits alone, and not compare him to this. Like, well, he's not this one, so I can't get into that. Well, this is a Marvel, so I can't. You know, that to me is like almost like almost insane to me that you can't like put something aside and just watch it on its own for what it is.
Yeah.
Without having to compare it to something or whatnot. I'm sorry, I'm not like calling you insane, Mick.
No, I know. I mean, I am, but I
not for
understand
that.
you're not.
I mean, not for that.
Not for that. Other opinions.
But I love Christopher Reeve as Soups.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Henry Cavill as well. Like, you know, for different reasons. Like
I always
Cavill is the most comic accurate Superman we've ever gotten.
I always think of it as like different runs on comic books too, where it's like if you like a comic, you're going to have different artists, you're going to have different writers. I mean, if you look back over the years, Superman's always, you can look back at Kurt Swan and then look at John Byrne, and you're going to have a different looking Superman, but it's still Superman, you know?
Right.
So I again, and it's not even the general audience that I'm talking about. It's like people like us who are into this stuff, who are just so hard-headed, or just so like they will stand their ground and they just will not, you know, it's like these things are going to go on way past when we're gone, because they've been around for almost 100 years now. So you're going to have different people playing these characters. Get used to it, or at least you hope you are, because that means they're still out there in popular culture. If you don't, then that means they've, you know, lost popularity and nobody wants to see them. So you better hope that you're going to get different people playing them. But
like in the 90s, I'd like what really got me into comics was the death of Superman. Like that's when he started to really mean something to me. Like, you know, just like thinking about him, like, you know, like my life prior or whatnot. I was a senior in high school when he you know, when the whole Doomsday thing happened. You know, he died. And you know, watching, you know, reading those comics and going, you know, through all those, you know, the reign of the Superman and this and that. Like this symbol meant, like it meant so much. Like you see what it meant in that world, and it meant a lot to me too. Yeah. Like and what you're saying about like different actors doing the part, different directors, different writers on board with each one, like it being in the comics. Look, I'm from an era where Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding.
Oh yeah.
That was like that was the duo. That was the real dynamic duo as far as I'm concerned when it came to doing Superman. Or Kurt Busiek, when he was writing the Action Comic stuff, or I'm sorry, I think he was the artist on the Action Comic stuff. What am I saying? But yeah, you know, but there have been amazing favorites of mine that aren't any of those artists and writers. It's you know, I'm able to just
to understand it's Superman no matter what.
Yeah,
and if you enjoy the character, you're going to go with a new writer, a new creativity, and you know what? If you don't, then you stop instead of just getting angry about it or saying like this will always be my Superman and no other one will be, because you know what? Go back to
why paint yourself in a corner?
Go back to the 30s, the 40s. The Superman then was different than the Superman now. It's always that's again how a character stays relevant. Like,
he's not, you know, you know,
but that's how a character stays relevant in pop culture. They need to change and they need to grow and evolve, and that's going to be the same way in the movies. So Man of Steel comes out, and I enjoyed Man of Steel. I liked it a lot. I liked getting to see Krypton a little bit more. I liked having a little bit more of a, you know, I think they were kind of chasing that Christopher Nolan type of based, you know, if this happened in reality. But I mean, with a more sci-fi, I like that with Krypton too. They had the more sci-fi kind of bent and stuff like that. And I, you know, and it did pretty good. It didn't. Again, now we're in a time where it's like you don't make $1 billion, people are just like, eh. But it's like not every movie is going to make $1 billion. It's just not, and that's another thing. That's another thing you're saying with Marvel. I mean, I give Marvel credit. They had that run of movies, and it's like, but that's not going to be every IP that can do that. It's just not. And like I said, I think after Man of Steel underperformed, or what Warner Brothers thought underperformed, they panicked, because I remember that it was at Comic-Con when they brought out I can't think of his name now, the guy who plays the general in Man of Steel, because he came out and did the dialogue.
Yeah.
but he came out and did the dialogue from The Dark Knight Returns, and
Yeah.
you know, they showed the Superman logo and the Batman logo,
Yeah.
and everybody went nuts.
Everyone lost their minds
because I mean, again, it's something we dreamed about as kids, like World's Finest, the Batman and Superman movie, Batman and Superman together. And then, of course, everybody lost their minds because it was announced that Ben Affleck was playing Batman. And again,
look,
they never learn. People never learn because all they do.
No one remember Michael Keaton.
Yeah, there's no one remember Heath Ledger. Everybody just complains about.
Yeah.
Everybody who's cast as something, and it. You know, 5 years later, they're writing in saying like they're writing somewhere saying they don't want them to leave. So it's like, stop complaining.
Doctor Who effect. It's the Doctor Who effect. Every time a new doctor is announced, like, I don't like him. His forehead's too big. He's got too much gray hair. Yeah, she's a woman. You know, stuff like that. They don't like it. They hate it. And then by the time that doctor leaves, they're like, "Don't leave. Don't leave."
Yep.
And then they don't like the next one coming in until you know what I mean. It's cyclical. It's over and over again. To me, Man of Steel is a masterpiece.
Is it?
As a Superman fan who is not
beholden to
in one particular aspect of Superman or this era of Superman or whatever, I loved it. I love this intro for Superman. I love this iteration of Supes. Batman v Superman, I love that too. The theatrical edition, I loved it. And then when the Ultimate Cut came out and made things infinitely clearer, my God, I was like, these are two to me. And maybe I'm sorry, maybe my tastes and opinions are shit. I don't know, but to me, Man of Steel and BVS was a 1-2 punch, like an amazing 1-2 punch. I loved it.
And again, it doesn't have to be Marvel. Because they are, you're talking about those two movies. They are the complete opposite of what Marvel is, and that's not throwing shade. It's not throwing shade at Marvel. It's not. But they can do, and it's also the comic companies have been very different. Like DC and Marvel are not the same when you read a DC and Marvel comic. Maybe now. I'm coming from not staying up to date with comics as much. So, you know, I'm going to say like
there were points, you know, working at a comic shop, there were points where I was like, are your writers all in the same room? you know, it's just different tables. That's how they're separated. Just different tables.
Well, it's funny because you can go over comic history, and I always thought I think my comic reading like heyday and what I think of like my golden age of comic reading was like right post-crisis, like 85 to like 93, 94. And that was also a time that DC was kind of getting Marvelized. A lot of like Marvel writers had come over and started, it was more like serialized in DC, because it's funny because people complain about like the interconnected universe and everything like that. And yeah, that was something I think Marvel was more known for because everything was set in like New York and everything like that.
Yeah.
Whereas
the world
DC,
outside your window. Yeah.
Yeah. DC they're all in the same universe, but everybody I've heard like writers and stuff in documentaries about DC Comics talk about like Batman had his own like fiefdom and of editors, and they were like, this is what's happening here, and Superman had his, and they would all just come together for Justice League, but like what was happening in those books didn't really affect what was happening in the other ones. Now after Crisis, I think a little bit more, it became more Marvelized and serialized, but then I think they kind of got away from that in the 90s, which is fine. And I understand DC and Warner Brothers wanting a shared universe. That's what I've always wanted. Like we talked about this on one of the other shows. I mean, like in Batman Forever, when he just mentions Metropolis. I mean, back in 1995, I was just like, oh my God. Just because he said Metropolis, just because he said you would think Superman had flown in and flown by and like, wait, all he said was Metropolis. And even in Batman and Robin, like when he said Superman's name, it was like, oh my God, like you're acknowledging that there's a Superman.
Yeah.
And like this is part of like a bigger discussion, but like DC can have a shared universe.
What
I mean,
we'll talk about Superman look like.
Oh God.
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. But I mean, this might be as we talk later with what James Gunn's going to do. You can have like a shared universe, but you don't have to do it like Marvel. All you have to do is acknowledge that, okay, it's like all these people exist in the same universe, because people say that all the time. Well, if something's going on, how come Superman isn't there to help? It's like he's got something going on in Metropolis. Like they don't all, like the Flash doesn't always come and help Batman when stuff's going on. He's got his own stuff going on. That's why DC was cool. That's why I always liked that DC had all different cities. As much as I liked Marvel being connected, why would you ever want to live in New York in the Marvel universe when like it's just like Galactus might step on your like apartment building, you know, at one time, or you know, the Spider-Man, you might punch the Vulture through your bedroom window. So it's like I'd rather take my chances in different cities.
Webbing all over the place.
But yeah, so with Batman and Superman, I loved Batman and Superman. I was on board with Affleck being cast as Batman. I can remember those first shots of him just like in silhouette with like, and that bat suit, like chef's. I mean, that the greatest bat suit that's the Batman versus Superman bat suit, the greatest bat suit that's ever been put on.
Which one? The armor or the
original? I mean, I think,
yes.
I mean, the armor too, just because it stays comic accurate to Dark Knight Returns. But that like his original, just why? And that'll get into other things like with the Batman and stuff. It's like, why do we need to go backwards to like just you see it works. Like just put him in that in an outfit like that. You don't need like to explain it all the time. It's just like Wayne technology that it's like thin, you know, bulletproof like fiber weaving or something like that. You don't need to actually have him in armor, and just like to have a Batman who, and I always like the more like thin like ninja Batman, but I mean Affleck just ripped, looking like a beast, and just looking like a Batman that would scare the living shit out of you, and that's how it's supposed to be. And I think he gives a great performance. I will say that I think Cavill gets a little bit of the short shrift in Batman versus Superman. A little bit. I think it's supposed to be a Batman Superman movie. I think it's more of a Batman movie.
Yeah. Like there's always this you know, Batman or Superman, and everyone always picks Batman over Superman. Not me. It's Superman all the way. He is, you know, sans all of his abilities, is peak human as far as his heart goes, you know. Batman, he's you know, people like, I relate more to Batman. I'm like, how? Explain, where are your billions, sir? Like, you know, I'm like, are you a sociopath too?
Well, like it's like Superman is the best of us. I mean, I'm skipping ahead, but like in the Whedon cut of Justice League, one of the things I wish they wouldn't have cut out is that speech with Alfred and Bruce when he says he's more human than I am. Like, I love Affleck. I love his performance in that when he says, you know, he's more human than I am. He's like, he had a job. He loves somebody. He's like, and I'm just, you know, I'm alone. And I that was great because that is totally, that is totally Batman and Superman.
Dude, the best part of that performance, the best part is when he says, you know, he's like, he's more human than I am. And then Alfred looks at him and Big Bruce is like,
yeah.
You know,
it is. I know I know exactly what you're talking about because I remember like saying it. I took my parents to see that just because I wanted to see it again. And I'm sitting there like explaining to my mom. I'm like, but that's true. I'm like, that's how Batman and Superman are. Superman is, because like, again, it's Batman is the real person and Bruce Wayne is the mask, where Clark Kent is the real person because that's how he was raised, and he just has the Superman persona. So they're like the total opposites. And Batman vs Superman, I love how I mean, you have to have the ritual murders of the Waynes, but I like how Snyder how the movie starts with showing that. And it's not like, you know, it doesn't have to be like a half-hour long origin for like Batman, but I appreciate that he showed it. I don't mind Jesse Eisenberg. I will say he's not my favorite Lex Luthor, but for what they were going for, I understand what they were going for. So I don't mind him. I don't mind his portrayal because, like you said, and especially in the director's cut, I think it gets, when his plan is fleshed out a little bit more and he gets a little bit more, a couple more scenes and stuff like that, I think it works a lot better. And you know, the action scene in the warehouse. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see like a better Batman action scene, just with like the way his
the
outfit
Flash
looks while he's fighting. Now that was cool, but I mean like hand to hand, like a type of like
he was
like
beating
close,
the
like just brutal and just action packed, and just like you've never seen Batman move on screen like that. You've just never seen him move on screen like that before or after. You know, I actually don't mind the scenes in the Batman. I like some of the action scenes in the Batman, but
that was more detective movie than anything else.
Yeah, it was. No, it was. But I mean, you know, he can. Yeah, it's just I enjoyed the movie. I don't want to say like I understand why. Again, like you can't even say it didn't do well. It made over $800 million. So it's like, but again,
it's just it's not Marvel.
It's not Marvel,
and it wasn't super colorful. It wasn't overly jovial. That's the problem. I'm sorry. That's not the problem. That's the problem with the people that can't see past it not being a Marvel movie. You know? And
again, they're trying. I not that I would take issue with it, but again, they're trying to shoehorn. You could tell they were trying to get the Justice League stuff in there, but it wasn't. I mean, again, it doesn't need to be. Everybody's like, "Wow, it's not realistic." Why are they people? You know, watching it on like a computer screen. I know. It's like, what exactly do you want? And I got again, like we're not even talking about like Wonder Woman. Her introduction, she's perfectly cast. It's going to be tough if she's not, and I would think she's probably not coming back when they reboot everything. But just her coming out there, the fight with Doomsday, I don't know why. Well, the fight between Batman and Superman is also brutal, and it's not, you know, again, as somebody who grew up with like the Dark Knight Returns, some nice nods to Dark Knight Returns, just but it's like staged so well. And that fight with Doomsday, I mean, I love that too when he's, you know, when Batman it kind of like winks to the audience, like where you realize that like Batman, you know, he would not be able to actually survive if he's fighting against like a huge alien where he's got, you know, Wonder Woman saves him. He's kind of jumping around, hiding behind stuff. But it's funny because I watched it with my wife and she's like, it's really dark. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's darker than She's like, no, it's dark. She's like, it's like really, it's like film dark. I'm like, this is the way. I'm like, it's the way it is. I actually think it's a great movie, and I think Affleck gives one of the better Batman performances.
Noice. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties, and you know, we're gonna keep the party going as best we can.
From now on, though, whenever I curse, I'm just gonna say shirt. No, shirt.
Oh, shirt. It's a long story. You had to be there.
We were going to continue doing this podcast in sign language, but neither of us know. Well, I don't know. So I don't know sign language. Yeah. So I don't want to speak for Chris.
I do.
All right, yeah. So we were talking about Batman vs Superman, and just how audiences to the tune of over 800 million, but that apparently was not enough money. So WB, again, this is what I think happened with all of these DC movies. I think they were reacting every time after a movie was made, and I think reacting because it wasn't making as much money as whatever Marvel movie had just come out, and they were worried about what you know, the general audience was thinking and fans on Twitter. So I think after every movie they reacted to the audience reaction to it, and I think a lot of the times they took the wrong message from the reactions and they just never figured out what they wanted to do. So I just think like every movie after Batman vs Superman just was like on the back foot to begin with, because I think with Batman vs Superman, I think they started filming like Justice League like weeks after Batman vs Superman was released, and I think WB was already telling them like, well, you got to change the tone, it's got to be lighter, and you know, they were giving them story notes. And again, with Justice League, I mean, this is when like the bad luck and just the bad karma and everything of like stuff that has gone on with DC over these past like 10 years just hit, because during the filming, I mean, unfortunately and tragically, Zack Snyder's daughter committed suicide, so he had to leave. And again, like, you know, I can remember living through this and reading stuff and everything, and people saying, oh, well, this is the way that they're getting rid of him. It's like, yeah, if they wanted to get rid of him, I don't think this would be the way of getting rid of him.
Yeah, don't use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
That's sick.
And again, with WB, they were like, well, I mean, if we're going to do like a team up movie, why not bring in Joss Whedon to do it? And he can like work on the script. And
he did Avengers, so
yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm sure he could do Justice League. And it didn't come out until years later. But the complete like clusterfuck that was caused by Snyder leaving, Whedon being hired.
I was so underdog, you know, for DC, whatever they did, that I was like, this movie was dope. Yeah. And then when I think of all right, and then when I look back at it, I'm like, I had Batman telling jokes. Like a lot of people were a far cry from what they were. Especially Bats. Like a far cry from what he was in Batman v Supes. A far cry.
There's good parts and bad parts of it, but you could see the seams. Like you could see it. You could see the seams are showing. And one thing, it's like you could just see some of the scenes and everything that were filmed while Snyder was doing it, and then you could see like the reshoots, the CGI. I know it was made fun of, but it wasn't as bad as they made it out to be. But it's still kind of like, just like, if you were gonna do it, like, why not just take the time? And again, it's like WB. They were chasing that. They were chasing that Marvel money. They wanted in on the cinematic universe. And they just were like, well, we're putting it out. And, it bombed out. And again, like growing up, God, I dreamed about a Justice League movie. And I was the same way as you were. I went and saw it and I was like, no, I thought it was great. And then after seeing it again, I was like, yeah, there's just parts of it. But again, it's not like the worst. It's not the worst movie ever made. Can I sit down sometimes and watch it? Like, as we just talked about, like that, there's some scenes. Version? Yeah, I mean, now. If you gave me the choice, what am I going to watch? I'm going to watch the Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yeah, but again, there are parts of the 2017 Justice League that I'm sad or missing from that Zack Snyder version. That talk between Alfred and Bruce. The even that Batman part in the beginning where he's him and the thief on the roof, and then he fights the parademon, I think is a part. But yeah, there's just some parts. It's like the characters are just, they're out of character. Like Batman, I'm not against a lighter Batman. I think sometimes they go a little too far with the darkness of Batman. I mean, you have to get that balance, but you don't, like you said, you don't need Batman cracking jokes. I don't need a Batman, Robin, George Clooney type of Batman. That's not what I need.
Bad card. I never leave home without it.
He's the current Batman of the DC universe, right? Until that Earth gets swallowed in Crisis.
No, it's its own.
I know. It's its own separate.
It's its own thing now.
Separate thing. Yep. Yes, it is.
Doing his own thing.
So wait, I'm trying to think. So then, okay, so Justice League then bombed. I mean, it bombed. It didn't do any. It didn't do close to what
Suicide Squad.
WB. You said you did or don't want to talk about.
We didn't even talk about.
No. Well, that's. Oh wait, did that come after? Oh, that's right. That did come
before.
You're right. That did come. That did come before Justice League. I'm controversial opinion. Maybe I don't hate. So I actually like.
Neither do I.
I like the Ayer Suicide Squad more than I like the James Gunn Suicide Squad. Ooh. I do. I actually do. I like the Ayer one because I think it's more comic booky. And I get, what? I like the Batman scene in it. I love that chase scene with him and the Joker and Harley Quinn. Mm-hmm. Again, we just got robbed of a cool Affleck Batman movie. I mean, it's just a great scene, and that scene between him and Will Smith when he goes to arrest him and he's with his daughter. It's a great scene. That's a really good scene. Again, it's not the greatest move, but I like Viola Davis, great as Amanda Waller, perfect,
Dude,
as Amanda Waller.
Keep her going. Like, make sure that's what she looks like, no matter what universe it is. Make sure it's Viola Davis. Absolutely.
Margot Robbie, like a great Harley Quinn. I don't know. We've never talked about this. Jared Leto, if you would have got rid of the tattoos, I don't mind his iteration of the Joker. I actually don't. I don't like the tattoos, but that's it. I everything else I thought he actually looked.
Here's the funny thing with that. You didn't see him in the movie.
Yeah.
He was wearing shirts. Except for that one time. When
I wouldn't have even cared. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm again like I can like joke about it and dislike it, but I'm not gonna like make it my life to, go over and over it. I wouldn't have even minded if he had them just on like the chest or whatever, but like the stupid one on the forehead, that was the only one I was like, all right, like I don't need the.
Here's my deal with the Joker, and this is what I thought. Now, and I'm not gonna be like I'm clinging to my head canon and blah 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 blah, but from what they showed us of him, it was made to believe that he's Jason Todd or Tim Drake, and turned into like not the original Joker, but like the next iteration of Joker, which would be. You don't think so?
I don't think so. Now, I will say that skipping back to Batman vs Superman, I remember in that trailer when they showed Affleck like looking at the Robin suit with the graffiti on it with the ha 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 but
it was the two.
But I love that
right here.
I love that but it said like I remember in Suicide Squad they were shown when they went over like each person and it said when they showed Harley Quinn it said accomplished in murder of Jason Todd. So I think I don't know. Or did it say Dick Grayson?
Dick Grayson.
You're right. I don't know if it's I don't believe
because in that suit it had.
I know. I don't believe it was.
It had both those shoulder wounds.
I remember those,
and on the Joker, it had them as well. So
I remember those rumors coming out. But again, like regardless, I didn't hate him as the Joker. I mean, you can have different. The Joker has gone through just like we were talking about with like Superman and Batman. The Joker's gone through different errors, different iterations. He's gone as like a murderer in the 50s and 60s. He was just like a silly clown. In the 70s, they brought him back as being like a psychopath, and into the 80s and stuff like that. You can have different types of Jokers. It doesn't
the anarchist that is Ledger's.
Yeah, not everybody needs to be Ledger. That's the same thing we were talking about with Christopher Reeve. There is not just one portrayal that you have to go by. There just isn't.
There's literally a comic series that came out.
Three Jokers. Three Jokers. Yep.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad. I made a lot of money. I know it didn't do well with critics, whatever that means. Made a lot of money.
And audiences hated it. Again, it's not Marvel.
Oscar winning the Suicide Squad.
Take that for costumes or something.
But I like and again they were doing the same thing too, where they were doing after credit scenes, trying to like set up, the next stuff. It was like him meeting Amanda Waller and saying you have to shut it down or my friends. But again, it just seemed like they were slapping this stuff on there, and they weren't. That's one thing I will give Marvel. Like they are incredibly like they have it like laid out.
They've got
what they're going to do. Yep.
Yeah.
And they know what they're going to do.
And I halfway mean this as an insult, but like the Marvel movies and their formula, it's all paint by numbers.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean.
You can set your watch to like when things are going to go down, or what's going to happen, and like I forgot. I think it was one of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, or if it was I think it was Thor. When Thor started getting ridiculous and turning into the, the 80s laser show Guardians of the Galaxy kind of movies. But like, something, I think it was, what was Hela?
Yeah. His sister.
She's giving this impassioned, intense speech. And then it stops. Someone's like, I just want to know if you wanted to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
yeah.
but you know,
it gets to be. I know it gets to be too much. I do agree. They start to rely. It becomes a crutch, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's too much.
People love the funny jokes. People love the comedy jokes. You know.
So we skipped Suicide Squad, and then we went to Justice League. So after Justice League was Wonder Woman. Which
That was dope.
which a great movie and actually did well with critics, did well with the general audience, was a hit. I thought it was a great movie. I think they went the right way with setting it in World War I and not setting it in the present. And again, I think they got it right with you can have a shared universe, but you just have it's like, oh, the thing pulls up and it's from Wayne Enterprises. You don't have to have, Bruce Wayne or Batman show up or Superman show up, but you can acknowledge that this is going on within the universe that we've established in the other movies. I think Gal Gadot is great as Wonder Woman. Do I think she's the greatest actress ever? No, but I think she embodies what Wonder Woman should be in these times where she's a warrior, but she also has that compassion. I mean, she's got to be kind of like Superman. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, I think it's going to be really hard to replace her if that's what they're going to do when they go forward, if she's not getting replaced. And from there, I think that was like DC, they found themselves with an actual movie that worked. And I think I was even thinking like, okay, I think they turned everything around. How many times, did you think as like a DC fan, like this is when they turn it around? Everything's going to be great.
This is it. The fulcrum. This is the one. Wonder Woman 84.
Oh God, yeah, I know. No, we'll get to that. You can see how much we prepare because I'm trying to think. So, the Wonder Woman, was it Aquaman that was next? Because that came in 2018,
there was a whole
right?
slate. There was like Flag.
I was gonna say
1 and 2.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember them. That was one of the things again where they got ahead of themselves, where they released that whole slate. Like, oh, we're gonna make a Cyborg movie, and we're gonna make Justice League 1 and 2, and we're gonna make the Flash, and we're make Green Lantern Corps, and we're gonna. I think John Dean. I think like one of those movies got made out of that. It's just like you go back now and it's just like all X's over each one. Like that one didn't happen. No.
Flash, no. Wait. Yes. No.
No.
Yes. Erase that. No. No.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got a guy now. What? No.
Oh, he's been arrested. No, maybe. Okay. Yeah. No.
Yes, he's been arrested. Yes. And
but even
action. Yes.
You know what? Even between Suicide Squad and Justice League, and I remember this was remember when Affleck dropped the it was almost like a screen. It wasn't like a screen test, but like it was like Deathstroke looking into the camera, and you saw like and that was like the setup. That was like the setup for like the supposed solo Batman movie because it was going to be Batman versus Deathstroke, and everybody got excited about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have Aquaman. I never thought I would live in a world where I would see like a solo Aquaman movie. I never. And like, is Momoa my Aquaman what I grew up with? No. I mean, my Aquaman was the guy on the Super Friends cartoons who, what was it when he showed them how to, I'm trying to think of what they used to have those interstitials and that, but they used to, remember they would have like, when it was like the hour-long one, they would have like a 20-minute like episode, and then they would have like, they would show you how to do like a craft or something like that. Or I think, or one of them was like, to stay away from like strange dogs or something, and Aquaman just happens to be like walking down. It's like, why is Aquaman like walking down like some neighborhood street? Shouldn't you be in like a pond or something like that? Like, what are you doing?
Where's the water? What are you doing?
But yeah, I would have loved to have seen him ride like on a seahorse. That would have been cool. But you know what? The Aquaman movie, not bad.
Good.
It was entertaining. It was entertaining. That's all I asked for, and it made $1 billion.
Yeah. Like I love Jason Momoa as Aquaman. No, he wasn't like my first choice to play him because he looked nothing like the comic one. Like he looked like the '90s one, but different.
Yes. Yeah.
And he wasn't, didn't have a trident for a hand.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy who played Orm, I was like, he looks like the comic book Aquaman.
Yeah, he looks like like that guy looks like how Aquaman should kind of look. Now he was great. I mean, he was great.
Yeah,
Aquaman again, fun movie, and you can kind of do whatever you want with Aquaman because you don't need to be. He's not Batman. He's not Superman, where you have to stick to a certain origin or a certain. You can mess around with like the stuff at the corners, but you have to kind of stick to the program with Batman and Superman. And with Aquaman, you can kind of, and that's again, I think that's why. And maybe other people are like me with Marvel. I don't get mad if they change like origins or change things around. Like Ant-Man, what the hell do I care if it's like Hank Pym or if it's like Scott Lang? I don't care about Ant-Man.
I did like Scott Lang's like that version in the comics.
Yeah. See, I never read his stuff because I was never an Ant-Man fan. Did I ever think there'd be a friggin' 3 Ant-Man movies? God no. And even Captain America, I like Captain America, but I'm like, it's like I don't. If you want to change some of his origin, it's fine with me. But like, if it's Superman or Batman, I'm like, don't be changing like too much Superman or Batman's kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I was like the stupid kid in 1989. It was like the Joker didn't kill Batman's parents. Okay, like that's not true. And like, shut up, nerd. While somebody was getting like a Batman symbol shaved in the back of his head, he was like, "Shut up, nerd."
Shut up, nerd.
Oh, okay. I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry." Aquaman came out, made $1 billion. How the hell did an Aquaman movie make $1 billion? It had to be the octopus that was playing the drums, right?
Yeah, that's yes. But it was just great, and it was as close to a Marvel flick.
Yes, I will agree with that. Yeah.
As getting it. So I mean, it's a formula that works. It's just that there's got to be other ones because it's just going to get stale if everything is the same. Like
I am a little mad that Black Manta didn't. I'm a little mad that Black Manta didn't have the voice like he did in the Super Friends. Hello, Aquaman. I can't do the cool Black Manta voice.
Just got James Earl Jones to play.
That would have been cool. That would have been very cool. I liked him though. The dude, he's playing like Wonder Man, I think, in another Marvel TV show.
He was good. He was also Dr. Manhattan in the
in the Watchmen.
Yeah.
So again, we were like, all right, Aquaman made $1 billion. Like,
here we go. This is it.
This is it.
This is the one. Wonder Woman 84. Oh, damn it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it came out during COVID, so they couldn't be released in theaters. But
still,
this is where I feel like it's like they don't have the. This is where I give Marvel the edge, where they have the planning. Like, if they're going to do stuff, one thing will lead into another. And with Wonder Woman 84, it's like, okay, I can see you wanting to set it at that time, but then you have to explain, like, how do people not know who Wonder Woman is? Wasn't Bruce Wayne alive in 1984? He never heard of Wonder Woman? Nobody?
Yeah,
They don't remember when... I can't even remember what happened. Didn't like everybody in the world, like something happened to them, and
it's dead
everybody just
coming back or something like that.
It's like Doctor Who, where they just everybody selectively forgets all the time whenever there's like alien invasions. They kind of like explain it they just
that whole Wonder Woman thing happened in 1984, and then Ghostbusters came out,
and everybody
forgot about anything. They're like, I want to bust some ghosts. What about Wonder Woman? Who?
Who?
Pinkman.
Something happened? Nah, Slimer. Yeah, Wonder Woman 84. I remember sitting, it was like Christmas night. It was like that was like the first year of COVID, wasn't it? Oh God. I don't even think about it. Watching that with my kids and my wife. I'm like, let's watch Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was great. And even I'm sitting there like, oh man, this isn't good. Like, how do you waste like Pedro Pascal?
There was some, but there were some powerful scenes in that, like when she had to let Steve go she had to let Steve die, and like that, like, you could feel that pain. Like that was the one thing that I
You
will
mean
remember
after she put him in the body of like an unwilling man that she then, had sex with? Venkman, Slimer.
Yeah. Winston Zeddemore. Fantastic.
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I don't even remember what happened in last month. What are you talking about? Yeah, so Wonder Woman 1984, I mean, God, the less said about that, the better. I watched it once and I've never watched it again. I've never watched it again.
Once was good.
One. As the opposite of Robert Wall in Batman '89 when he says six is good. No, once is good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. It's probably maybe too much. So that was Wonder Woman 84, and then we had Zack Snyder's Justice League came out like the next year. What? Oh, I think we skipped over Shazam.
Yeah, that to me is so far apart and like not like. So where's it at? So it is. I didn't know.
I like Shazam, and again, I think
it's another Marvel-y.
I was going to say very Marvel-y. Yep, very but charming. I liked it. Yeah. I liked it, but you can do you can do the lighter tone with Shazam, and plus it was set in Philadelphia. I mean, it was set in Philadelphia,
it was set in Toronto, sir.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Way too clean. Not
it was way, yeah. Yeah, I know.
Trust me.
I know.
I'm in the middle of it right
now. But yeah, I mean, again, not being able to have the other heroes have, Captain Marvel Jr. or anything like that, or kind of annoyed me. But way to go, DC, on letting that copyright lapse back in the 70s. But yeah, I mean, and that was like a minor hit. It didn't like blow up the box office, but it did good enough. And I think, again, like people were like, well, yeah, I think DC is kind of although I think Mark Strong would have been a better Lex Luthor than Savannah, but that's okay. I always saw him as like a Lex Luthor guy.
Wait, wasn't he also? Wait, who was? Oh no, I'm not even going to bring that up. No.
Uh-oh. Why?
Oh, yeah. Who was Sinestro?
That was him. Yeah, he was Sinestro.
All right,
he was.
That's enough of that movie. That's enough of that movie.
Well, that was like they messed up on the main casting right there too. It should have been Bradley Cooper instead of. I just don't see Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan. He's perfectly cast. He's Deadpool. He's not Hal Jordan. Like Bradley Cooper would have been a good Hal Jordan. Steve Trevor. Why can't I remember his name? Captain Kirk.
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine would have been a good Hal Jordan.
Oh yeah, he would have. That's
but
enough.
Again,
that's enough Green Lantern. All right, that's enough. Oh boy. I walked out of that happy too, because I'm like, DC, yeah. I was just tricking myself into loving that movie.
You're like the old 1980s DC house ads where it's like, DC, there's no stopping us now. Yes, there is. Yeah, you're not going to see another Green Lantern movie. Right, you were walking out after credits, like, oh man, they set up Sinestro. We're gonna have Sinestro. We're gonna have like the Green Lantern. Yeah, no.
The yellow, we had the Sinestro core. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, not. No, they're not making it. No, okay, no. Ryan Reynolds, not. Yeah, oh, he's Deadpool. Oh, okay.
We got Batman Begins. We're good. Okay.
Even that didn't do that well. In all honesty, when it came out, like that was more of a hit on DVD. Great. Oh, it's a great movie.
God. All right. 3 of those. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go back. All right. So we skipped over Shazam. You know what? I think that just shows that, like, with two people who are one, big movie fans, two, big DC fans, we can't even keep like the DC movies in order. So that just goes to show what was going on for the past 10 years.
But let's look to the future, because they seem to have got themselves a blueprint.
I mean, we can go with, okay, so I mean, Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I liked it. Now,
I was 4 minutes in, and I was like, this is I was like 30 minutes in, and I was like, this is like that. I remember 30 minutes in, I texted my brother. I was like, somebody arrest Joss Whedon right now for what he brought out in the theaters. Like I was
for what he cut out.
Yeah.
And getting to see like Martian Manhunter was very cool.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah, I'm trying to think. So we had that, and then so that was 2021, correct? Yeah, because 2020 was Wonder Woman. So did we not have anything until The Flash?
No.
We
had Shazam too.
We had Shazam. I am not gonna lie to you. I just watched that 2 weeks ago. Is it good? Not real. Is it bad?
No,
it's a perfectly fine film. I just don't understand why he's all of a sudden like supposed to be turning like 18, and as Shazam he's like even more immature than he is as like Billy Batson. Like it's not good when your main character is like really annoying. And I like Zachary Levi, but he was just like, I watched it with my son, and he was like, oh my god, he was like, why? And he's like, why is he like acting like that? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why. I actually, Freddie, I actually wanted to see more of him because I was like, all right, I'm enjoying his storyline and his performance. Like I was like Zachary Levi, I was like, it's a little much. Like calm yourself.
You should tone it down.
Dial
it back. Dial it down to 12.
Bring it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I only watched that like 2 weeks ago, so I didn't even. We skipped over the Suicide Squad, which I like. I actually like the Suicide Squad. I liked it. I like James Gunn. I do. I just think sometimes when he's given free reign, and I'm not saying this to be like, oh, we got to be worried. Like, right. I don't mind like with Suicide Squad, you can bring in like the dark humor of it. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was. I will admit I was happy to see Starro on the big screen. I never thought I'd get to see Starro the Conqueror in an actual motion picture.
Between Peter, James, I'm saying Peter Guns. That's something. That's hip hop. Between James Gunn, John Cena, and Peacemaker, like what they did for that character, and he's prominent. He's got his own comic right now. It's a miniseries.
Yeah.
He's in. He's going up against Green Arrow right now. Like Green Arrow and Arsenal and Black Canary. Like he's going up against all them right now. Like and he's got a female counterpart named Peace Wrecker. Amazing. Same costume. And it's incredible.
No, dude, and Vigilante in that series. I mean, it was a great series. That was a series, I will admit, that I was glad came out of the Suicide Squad because, one, I thought Cena was great in the Suicide Squad, and two, I remember putting it on and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, but I had nothing to watch, and just like watching like 3 episodes, I was like, oh my god, like I can't believe they like. I knew who the character was. I never cared about Peacemaker at all, and I was like, this is freaking great.
Yeah.
And with like Vigilante again, like I knew who Vigilante was, and I knew that like again with like a character that I don't really care that much about. I'm sure there's like some Vigilante like super fan out there who's like, this is not what the character is. I get you. Like I had to go through it with Keanu Reeves and Constantine, but you know what? I loved it. I just love what they did, and the way they like, even though it was funny, but they still had that like brutality, and they still had like they were like tugging at the heartstrings, and they were doing like a story about like a father and a son and all that kind of stuff. It was I give James Gunn credit for pulling that off, and that's when they announced it, I was like, all right, like seeing what he did with Peacemaker, I think he. And again, like I didn't hate the Suicide Squad. He obviously loves the playing in the DC world, so I'm like excited to see what he's doing. And I'm hoping that the Waller series that they talked about is still going to go forward because I keep Amanda Waller, keep Viola Davis. You got something like perfect there, so don't mess around with that. And I hope there's room for like Peacemaker in whatever they're going to do because I love how Cena was great.
Yeah,
like he impressed me a lot. Like I never really saw him in anything else. I know he was acting, but I didn't really watch him in anything else. He impressed me.
He's hilarious.
So with that,
he's hilarious, but yeah, he definitely brought the drama too when it needed to happen. And you know, I mean, I thank his years in wrestling for that one. Like, you know, really learn how to perform and whatnot. And yeah, and when he like sets down to do something, like he goes, you know, full throttle and does his absolute best.
Speaking of wrestling, and there was Black Adam.
Shit. All right. I 90s action, you know, superhero movie. I'm like, yeah, I was there. I have no problem with that. But seeing what he wanted to do and what he, you know, was trying to like, you know, skip over, you know, Captain Marvel, Shazam, and go straight to Superman. I'm like, you need to settle something. You need like set up some stuff with Shazam first. That has to be explained. That has to be taken care of. But you know, there was nothing of it, and he wanted to go right to Superman. I get it.
And again, it's not having like any kind of set plan or something like that. And you can have all these characters exist together, but like have some. I mean, he should have been, like you said, he should have either been set up in the first Shazam movie, or he should have been the main antagonist in the second movie, and then you can spin him out into fighting. I mean, that's fine if he wants to fight Superman, but again, Warner Brothers and DC wasted. I mean, The Rock is one of, if not the biggest draw in the world, or he was over the past couple of years, and you're wasting it. But again, it's not the worst movie ever made. If I'm going to sit down one day, put on the TV on a Sunday on TBS and Black Adam showing, I'll probably sit and watch it. I got to see Dr. Fate in a movie, which I never thought I would get to see that. And I thought Pierce Brosnan was great. I got to see Hawkman. I thought he was great. It was a fun movie. It's not the greatest movie ever made. It's not the worst movie ever made. It's just, again, it's that lack of momentum that WB and DC just could never get, because they just never they always wanted one thing to lead into another, but everything got contradicted. Seeing that after credit scene, it was awesome. I knew it was coming, but my son didn't. I took my son and a couple of his friends to see it, and they didn't know it was coming. They were kind of sitting in front of me, and they went like a little nuts, saying like, "Oh, it's because they heard like the music and they saw him." That was cool, and I knew it was coming. But it was still cool to see him walk out of the shadows. Again, when he was like, "I'm back," and then like a month later, like, no, I'm not.
You know,
it's not gonna happen.
And that was just there were too many people. You know, Warner Brothers. You know, when the regime changed around, like, you know, that's when things started to get like a set goal. Because back then, you know, from everything leading up to Black Adam, they were just like handing out the IP to anyone. Go ahead, make something cool with that too, so we can get the momentum going. Like that's what was happening, and that's unfortunate. My brother and I always said DC's greatest villain is not Darkseid. It's Warner Brothers. Like that was always like the thing. Like, you know,
very true.
During that whole time, it was Warner Brothers that was the greatest, you know, the greatest villain, and not giving anything enough time to, or not letting Zack Snyder do his thing until we all got a chance to read, like, you know, what his grand vision was and how it was. You had Bruce Wayne and Lois. Having a kid, and then Soup takes care of the boy.
And I have nothing against Zack Snyder. I've liked some of his movies. There's some movies
that's not.
There's some movies, but I will give Marvel this also with Kevin Feige. Like, I think he gets, and again, this isn't like me like going off on Zack Snyder. I have nothing against the guy, but I think I'm hoping with I'm saying Peter Gunn now, with James Gunn, that he knows
Peter Safran, I think is the other guy's name,
and Safran, that he knows the characters, he loves these characters, and it's like, when I remember reading that, and some people were like, "Oh, he never got to do his vision," I was like, "I'm sorry, but I just don't know if I wanted to see." And again, wasn't he going to have Superman go bad again?
I think so.
You know, it's like, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of the Superman going bad. Like, come on. Like, there's so much you can do with Superman. You don't have to make him go evil to make him interesting. You just don't. You know? So, I mean, that brought us to The Flash, and I mean, I enjoyed the Flash. As we see this summer, big IP, a lot of big IP movies are just not doing that well. I will admit, I'm surprised. I thought the Flash was going to be a huge hit with Keaton coming back. And just it being a superhero movie and the purported end of like this iteration of the DC universe, I thought it was going to be bigger than it was. I guess I underestimated how people feel about DC, how people feel about Ezra Miller.
It's partially DC. It's mostly Ezra Miller. And that's what did it in. And I mean, it's been so lopsided with connectivity and this and that and knowing how it all fits together. That like no one gave a crap when Shazam came out. No one like people enjoyed it, but it was still like when the Flash came out. That's unfortunate because I thought the movie was good. But
and I think that's where that leads us into what's going to happen because I think DC right now it's damaged goods right now. I just think it's in the eyes of the general audience, it's damaged goods. I think they sit there and think like it's not Marvel and we don't care. Like you just said, like I would not want to be James Gunn right now because it's going to be tough. Do I think he can do it? Yes. But what do you want to see with like DC going forward? How do you want to see like the new universe? What would you like? Would you like to see more interconnectivity? Would you like to see a shared universe? Do you want to just see them as like separate movies?
No.
What do you want to see?
I definitely want it all to be connected. I love that. Like as a Star Wars canon freak, yes, I want to see all kinds of connectivity. There's something I've been saying for years, and that's Warner Brothers has had many great storyboards to go off of to do their movies. It's called Justice League Unlimited.
Yes.
You could have done that
1,000 times. Yes.
You could have done that damn near word for word, shot for shot, and give Dwayne McDuffie his flowers during this whole thing. And like change it up a bit and whatnot, of course.
Sure.
But you could have done that and had an amazing cinematic universe.
What I was going to say, it's funny you're saying that because what I was going to say is, what do I want to see? I want to see like satellite error Justice. I want to see the satellite error Justice League. I want them to like to eventually get to that.
To shoot,
but like I want them to be like I want them to embrace the comic bookiness of it. I want them to embrace the fantasy of it. Because it's going to be separate from like the Batman. I want to see a Batman who is is a superhero. And it doesn't mean you take away like that doesn't mean you make him a joke, but I want to see him as a superhero. I want to see him and Superman and Wonder Woman as the Trinity, as the leaders of the DC universe, leaders of the Justice League. I want to see them like build toward the Justice League, put them on that satellite up in space and like lean into like, and like you said, like use Justice League Unlimited as a blueprint. I mean, that to me, I've always said that's like the greatest use of the DC characters in any medium. And using all of them, like it made me care about like Vigilante and third, fourth rate like characters, and it made me care about them and lean into like Justice League International. You can have movies with like Booster Gold and Blue Beetle if you want to go like a more like Marvel,
if you wanted that
Marvel type of way, or even just like have them on the team like as comic relief. It doesn't have to be the same type of humor as Marvel, or it doesn't like I think so many people they get so nervous that it's going to make Batman a joke and stuff like that. There isn't one iteration of Batman either. It's not just the Dark Knight Returns Batman. It's not just the super serious like dick Batman that I feel like has like been out there for the last couple of years. There's a Batman who can be serious, but he's also like, my Batman was like that Jim Aparo, like mid to late 80s Batman that is like a detective and a ninja, but he can also not crack a joke, but he's not like so grim that he's never going to smile or he's, it's like let him and Superman be friends. I'm tired of seeing Batman and Superman fight.
Yeah.
Like you can highlight like the differences between them and use that as story fodder, but also make them friends. I mean, one of the best things in the DC universe is that friendship between Superman and Batman. I had the scene, and I think it's from, I think a Superman comic. I think it was by Jerry Ordway, where he gives him like the kryptonite and says like, "There's only one man I would trust to have this if something ever happened." And he gives it to him. Have like a Fortress of Solitude that has like the menagerie of all the space animals. Have a bat cave with a giant penny and a dinosaur. Like lean into all that. That's even more than like Marvel, because Marvel is still like they kind of base it in reality with everything.
Yeah.
If I was DC,
they're more the Marvel stuff. They more cater to the normies, and it's almost like and I'm not. Oh, it's gonna sound like I'm just shitting on the Marvel movies, but it's like they want to cater to the normies, and it's almost like we're kind of embarrassed that we're making this comic book thing, so we don't call him Captain America all the time. That's Steve. Yeah. That's Tony. That's that's
I know. Yeah, I agree. But I do think it's like, because I mean, like, look behind the curtain. We're recording this today on the same day where Ryan Reynolds shared like that picture of Hugh Jackman, like finally in like the yellow like Wolverine outfit, like 23
just wish
years.
He was 5'3", man. That's all.
I know. People were thinking, but I mean, it's funny because you and I worked together when the first X-Men movie came out, and it's like you remember when they had like just the black outfits, because they were like, well, nobody's gonna. I remember Bryan Singer like nobody's gonna buy them like in yellow spandex. So I mean, they make the joke in the movie, but it's like, put Batman. It doesn't have to be like the 60s Batman outfit, but you can have him in like a darker blue and gray outfit. Like, I mean, you saw it in the Flash. Yeah. These costumes work. Like the general audience is going to buy them in these costumes now. They're so used like to comic book movies now that it's not going to phase them. Lean into like the DC universe. Like the DC universe is so unique and there's so many stories. Give us like the Question. Give us Green Arrow. Give us like characters that we haven't seen on the big screen. I'm not shitting on the CW shows. I didn't really watch them that much. I love Green Arrow. He's one of my top 5 comic book characters. Mm-hmm. But I never watched the CW show because I was like, it's basically Batman, and they're just using I know. I've seen some of them. I'm not, but I'm like, give us like the comic book Green Arrow. Give us like that. Give us Oliver Queen with like the crazy goatee and everything like that. Give us you want
a good basis for Superman. The Superman, the actor Tyler Hoechlin, I think.
From the CW show.
Oh my God, he's an amazing Superman.
Yeah, I know.
Incredible Superman.
Yeah. And he's another one where people are like, well, he's not like, 6'5" and like built like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like, that's not what you need for Superman. You need to get the character. Yeah. You need to get the
strength
is
there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not ripping on Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill was obviously ripped. I mean, you look at Christopher Reeve, he was like built, but he's not like, he wasn't like Henry Cavill, but you still like believe that he was, you still, and the thing is, you bought him in that outfit when you saw him. Like you weren't laughing at him. You bought him in that outfit.
That stature was, he had it. Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's what I'm hoping Gunn. And again, I've heard on other podcasts, I've heard, read on stuff. It's like, well, DC, why does it have to be connected? It's not Marvel. It doesn't matter. I know he wants to have like an overarching storyline, but that doesn't mean that every movie has to lead into the next one. And if you miss a movie, you don't get it. I just want them, like the same thing you said. Metropolis is there. You can mention Gotham City. Everybody knows one another. This is a world where superheroes exist. It's not just Superman. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure you're the same way. When I was a kid, I was such a nerd. It's like I hated that, like watching the Superman movies or like Batman '89, that it was like, oh, he's like the only superhero in the world. It's like I want them to all like exist.
Lonely. Yeah.
You don't need to like show them, but it's like just acknowledge it. Again, it goes back to that Batman Forever. It's like, oh my God, they mentioned Metropolis. So I'm excited. I mean, I am going to admit, like, I know people are like, oh, the superhero fatigue, blah, blah, blah. I'm excited to see what he does with Superman Legacy. I'm hoping that, I mean, I know there's whispers that Brainiac might be in it. It's like, give me somebody new. You're going to have Lex, which is fine. I mean, it's his main villain, but you can do villainous. He shouldn't be. He should be a villain, but he should be cloaked in that respectable businessman. I mean, that's would I love to see him in that, you know, purple and green, like superpower suit? Yes. Oh, I'd love to. But you know what? You can get to that even if you have him as like the businessman to begin with, who Metropolis thinks they love because they don't know what's going on. Give us Brainiac. Superman might not have the rogues gallery of Batman and Spider-Man, but they're still, he has untapped potential in his bad guys. You don't need to have Zod again. I don't need to see him going up against Lex Luthor as the main villain again. Like I'm hoping
not until
James
he's
Gunn,
got that suit, or he combines with Brainiac, like in Justice League Unlimited.
Exactly. But I'm hoping, and I think I trust James Gunn. I'm hoping if he does have like the long game I hope if he has the long game in his sights, like he's planning this stuff out and he's saying like, we don't need to just do this all in one movie. Just start building it up. And again, it doesn't have to be Marvel. You don't have to have an after credit scene in Superman Legacy where he talks about the Justice League or talks about Batman. Just make them all exist in this world and let it organically happen. Right. And eventually you can have a Justice League movie.
Right. Look, there was one live action DC property that got it absolutely right. I know some people hate it. Whatever. Titans. Because everyone and everything existed in this world.
Yes, I will say that, because I watched the first season. One, I'll tell you what, best Robin and Nightwing. I looked exactly like how I would expect Robin and Night. And again, it doesn't matter, but I mean, look, the costumes were great.
We got our first live action Jason Todd.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie to you. The guy, I know people were complaining about the guy who played Batman from Game of Thrones. He looked to me. Did you ever read the Alan Grant? I'm sorry, the Mike W. Barr, Paul Neary Batman run from like the mid to late '80s. If you ever read that, he looks like because they were like, he looks older. It's like, well, first of all, Batman's supposed to be older sometimes, but he looks like the Bruce Wayne from those comics. And everything existed in that. It's like, I feel like you said, the greatest villain in the DC universe is Warner Brothers, because they have this rich, like DC has such like a rich history to pull from, and you're boxing yourself in with just like, we can only do Superman, we can only do Batman, we can only do Wonder Woman. There's so many, like I said, like what I wouldn't give to see like the Question, to have and again, in Justice League Unlimited, like done amazing, like they did the Question amazing in Justice League Unlimited. And that's like something you don't need like big special effects or anything like that. But like, if you do like it, and can I freaking get like Guy Gardner in live action, for God's sake?
And Jon Stewart, yes, gimme.
Jon Stewart, exactly. Like they have that whole,
but
but they've been talking about, like I said, like Green Lantern Corps for all this time. Like that is a property you can do so much with. Absolutely. And it's just sitting there, and you're doing nothing with it.
That could be their big sci-fi epic.
Yep. And you're doing nothing with it.
The Galaxy is with less laughs.
Exactly. No, you're right though. So, I mean, I think you and I, as like long suffering, and again, like I say that with my tongue in, like my tongue in cheek, because it's like we have this, like, no matter what, I will go back and watch these movies because I enjoy them. I don't care if other people don't enjoy them. So I've got these movies for the rest of my life, and I'll go and watch them. And like I said, we've gotten this stuff that we never thought we would get. I mean, as a kid in like 1987, I never thought I was going to get a Justice League movie, like a live action movie. I never thought I would see.
That was not in my headspace.
Yeah. Did I want a Shazam movie? I mean, no. But did I ever think I would see a two Shazam movies? No. Yeah. So it's like, I've gotten to live through this stuff.
We were like, we saw what happened with He-Man. So we're never getting anything.
Never. Hey, that hand came out of the thing at the end. So there's going to be Frank Langella is coming back. Poor Skelly, he got done dirty.
On that note.
But yeah, like James Gunn, I know you're watching this. Just like if you want,
huge fan.
whenever, if you just need any advice just come to us. We have ideas. Well,
and if you don't want to come to us, just watch Justice League Unlimited.
Exactly. Seriously.
Please.
Seriously. The greatest iteration of the DC universe ever. But yeah, so you know, as long-suffering DC fans, I think we're both excited. I'm excited to see what he. Yeah, I'm excited to see. It's always exciting whenever there's a new Superman movie, whenever there's a new Batman, whenever you're going to start something over. It's exciting, and it's a clean slate, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do. And you know, it's fun for me with my kid getting to see, like, my dad took me to see Superman movies and got me into all this kind of stuff, and now I got him into all this kind of stuff. So, you know, he'll be just hitting like his mid to late teens when this stuff's coming out. So, you know, he's in like that prime time for watching all this stuff and getting into it. And I mean, he's got all this stuff. I've taken him to see like the original Superman on the big screen and all that kind of stuff. So he's got all this. He's got all this history, and he'll be ready for the new stuff. So, and I'll be right there with him because I'll be excited about it. So
that's right.
Just give me a satellite, baby. Give me the JLA satellite.
Good old Watchtower. Give me.
Well, you know what? Give me an Easter egg. Give me the Hall of Justice. I'll take the Hall of Justice.
Someone's got to say meanwhile.
Yeah, meanwhile.
Meanwhile.
You can even give me Gleek. You can even have like Gleek living in there if you want to, for God's sake.
Like walk by very quickly.
And on that
I'll
note,
take the Wonder Twins. Yeah.
Hey, I'll take the Wonder Twins over Wendy and Marvin any day.
Oh,
they were terrible.
Oh, man.
I remember when those episodes would come on, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna skip a couple days until it gets to like Challenge of the Super Friends again.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note
for the third time.
Yeah. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our DC Comics talk. We'll probably be doing this again once these movies start coming out and all that jazz.
10 years from now, we'll be doing like another recap of the James Gunn DC universe.
We're just tired. We're just so tired. Yeah, it came out. My back. Yeah. All right. So this is Chris and Mick. We are signing off on the Nice Guys. We'll see you guys on our next episode when we're going to be talking about the Young Guns duology.
Yeah, I was going to say duology. Yes.
Yeah.
The Young Guns duology. We are going to have some 80s goodness, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people have been wanting this.
Dead
or alive.
I can't wait.